Assalamu alaikum, welcome back from the break. You are watching Modest Muse in Review, the lifestyle show that reviews the current issue of Modest Muse. With me in studio today, I've got Bashir Musaji. Bashir is an expert in the area of Islamic finance. Assalamu alaikum, Bashir.
Alaikum assalam.
How are you today?
I'm well.
I'm so happy to have you here. This topic is so, it's on the top of my list of things to delve into in depth because it's what we need to know about. So before we go into the topic of Islamic finance, please tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Well, it starts back to I was homegrown in the family business.
Okay.
And in the family business, I felt that my growth was very limited because I was stuck in a particular industry and I wasn't really happy, and I decided to study. Did a course in business management.
Okay.
And then I saw this one particular course that just looked like a mammoth called the MBA.
Yes.
And for some odd reason, it attracted me, and I saw the type of skills that it offered. And I thought to myself, if I were to do an MBA, I'd probably be able to network or meet people that will be able to help me to where I would like to be. And while I was doing the MBA, we've got something that we've got a major project, a thesis that you have to write, and I was stuck for months and months. I just couldn't come up with a topic. And we had a course once on ethical finance.
Okay.
We had a guest lecturer speak to us about ethical finance, what it's all about, and that was just after the financial crisis. And then for me at the time, there was no ethics in finance. It was like
the two words just don't go together.
Don't go together, an oxymoron, if you like. And I was intrigued by it, and then I stumbled across Islamic finance. He mentioned Islamic finance, and I thought, no, that wasn't right. There's no such thing. And this was before 2010. And I did some research, and I thought, wow, this is something new. And I pursued that interest into my thesis. The issue that I had was that there was nobody in South Africa that was qualified enough to supervise a thesis in Islamic finance. And that was a conundrum. And my university, they influenced me to change my topic because they felt that because of the lack of expertise.
When was this, Bashir?
This is my second part of my MBA, so this was about 2011.
And as late as 2011, there was nobody
that had an academic grasp of Islamic finance actually in Africa, because how it works first in your city, then South Africa, then Southern Africa, then all of Africa, and you couldn't find a supervisor. And I was adamant, I want to do this is what I wanted to do. And what they did was, they said there's a sister school, a partner school that they have in the UK that offers Islamic finance as a master's program. Would I like to go over? And I thought, geez, we speak with UK and pounds and all that. But I said, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about at the time, and let me give it a shot. So I ended up in the UK. I was only, the school arranged that I do half the course.
Okay.
In terms of an exchange agreement that I had. And I don't know what happened that side. After my 3 months expired, I absolutely loved the course, and I was one of the guys that right in front and very motivated. They called me in as a exit interview, university in the UK, and they said that they noticed I was quite motivated to the course. I added a lot of aspects to the course because I had an MBA and I'm doing this over here, so they offered me the entire course, the whole master's degree, and they said that this was the first and only time they've ever offered a full program as an exchange because it's essentially free. So I did my master's that side, and that was 2013, I came back to South Africa, all excited. And then I was working on my dissertation in South Africa in Islamic, because I came back with
So what was your topic?
My topic was, I'm just going to leave the crux of it.
Yes.
I measured our the market against an Islamic market.
Okay.
So I took the FTSE 100 as a proxy for the market, and I made a Sharia portfolio, and I measured the performance over a 14-year period.
Wow.
And my Islamic portfolio outperformed the market by a substantial amount.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
So that was awesome for me, and I got a lot of my data from Element investment managers in town. I worked extensively with them, and the chairman saw me there coming every day, and he's chat with me now here and then, Dr. Anwar Nagia, and I think he just liked what I offered, and he offered me a job.
So you walked from your studies straight into a job?
Straight into a job, yes.
Alhamdulillah.
And that's where I am now.
So this is where you're at now. Okay, so there were 2 articles that you've written for Modest Muse. The first was, is investing in financial markets, is it permissible, is it halal? And the second one was about dispelling myths about Islamic finance. First, tell us, yay or nay, is it permissible?
Well, you know,
I know the article said there's no short answer.
yeah, that's the thing. It's difficult to say yes or no, and that's the brilliance of Islam. You know
It's taken in context.
Yeah.
So give us.
So what has happened over the years? I think Islamic finance really started in the mid 70s, 1975. Really, that's where it started, and it was very rudimentary in its outlook, because there was lack of infrastructure before that. So they really start from scratch in the early 70s. But because it was a newborn, it was not even an infant, it was a newborn, a lot of the scholars weren't keyed up with it. And because there wasn't much research at the time, the scholars stayed away from it. They just stayed away from it until the resurgence about the late 80s, early 90s. What happened was that Muslim wealth grew substantially due to the oil boom. Arab wealth became substantial at the time, and they just didn't know what to do with their money. They just didn't know what to do with their money. And as time progressed, people became more aware of Sharia, with the introduction of different technologies, the TV, the radios, and later on the internet. People just became more aware of what Islam is. And that sort of brought on this thing of Islamic finance. It carried it forward, a deeper awareness. And as people progressed, they were concerned with this thing of interest, because one of the tenets of Islam is stay away from interest. And people were just feeling uncomfortable with interest, and this sparked on new research. That was the early 90s, and I think the fatwa came out in about 1992 that yes, we can invest with a lot of buts.
T's and C's.
Yeah. A lot of it.
Now, a lot of us we bank with non-Islamic institutions, even though we are Muslim, and that's because the lack of knowledge, the lack of we fear the unknown, and there's that when in doubt, don't. And there's also a lot of myths associated with Islamic finance, how it's run, the operation. So can you dispel some of those myths? What is Islamic finance not?
Sure, it's a lot that it's not. The important thing that you brought up earlier, and this is what I'm passionate about, is switching people over from conventional to Islamic finance. Now, the issue that many people have, and I too had this before I did the research, is that how can a conventional bank offer Islamic finance? It's like, how can you go to a church and perform salah? So that's a comparison I had in my head, and I just thought to myself, this is just and this is one of the myths, that it's just a ruse. It's just something that conventional banks are paying people to certify them halal. And this is by far the most common myth that I've come across that people have. The look and touch and feel of an Islamic finance product, I would say, is probably exactly the same as a conventional product. So it looks the same, it reacts the same.
So an Islamic check account, for example, same. Debit card.
It looks, feels, even the consultant you speak with, they all look the same. Economic objective is exactly the same. But the key differences lie in what happens beneath the covers. An example of that is that in Islamic finance type of account, all that funds, it's ring-fenced. So it's sort of not put into the same pools as the other monies. So by far and large, Islamic finance accounts is protected against interest. And other things as well, that an Islamic finance institution looks into what they're financing. So if a person needs a loan or wants a loan, they want to understand what you need the loan for. With conventional finance, they don't look at that. They just look at what?
Your affordability.
Yes, affordability, if you can afford it. They don't look at what. Islamic finance does, because Islamic finance looks at economic empowerment.
Okay.
So if there's no economic empowerment,
it's not going to add value.
It's not going to add value, yes. So that's one of the tiers. And it also looks at how you're going to make your money. Does it fall within the parameters of Islamic law?
So it can only be beneficial.
It can only be beneficial, and that's what my passion is about, is that the more people that buys into Islamic finance, the more ethical type of industries will start developing as a result, because they will only finance those that meet the minimum requirements.
So that word ethical finance, that was an oxymoron before, wouldn't be anymore.
Another myth, and I actually have a problem with the term Islamic finance. I feel it's very exclusive, and I think that
I know about non-Muslims who use Islamic institutions.
In Malaysia, there's a 50-50 between the two. In the UK too, where I was, that non-Muslims are also buying into this because of the ethical nature of it. In South Africa, we're lagging, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. The type of questions that I see coming to the fore, and then when I speak to some of the bank managers, I see that there is interest. But going back to this thing about exclusion, that the concept of interest is not unique to Islam. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that we just adopted it from those before us, or religions before us. Can I say religions, or the prophets before us? In fact, it goes so far back that in sutra, in Indian scriptures, as well as Buddhist scriptures, Jataka, they forbade or frowned upon interest. And we're talking about 600 BC, to such an extent that between 600 and 100 BC, Indian lawmakers of the time prohibited the higher castes, like the Brahmins, from lending money because of the unethical nature of interest. So it's not unique to Islam. We have it in Christianity. Christianity, interest was forbidden until about the 12th century.
So we need to find a new term. We'll leave that up to you.
That'll be my next project, inshallah.
The next thesis. Bashir, we can chat at length about this, and we will have you in studio again, because this topic, like I said, it needs it goes so deep, and there's so much that people don't know and want to know. And I invite readers to pose questions, ask anything that you can answer, and I'm sure you can answer anything. People have posted, sent me questions about lifestyle finance. Can I use this? Can I use that to fund this? So we'll pass that your way, and we'll definitely have you in studio again. Shukran for coming through.
No, it's only a pleasure.
Shukran, that was Bashir Musaji. His contact details are at the below the screen. Please be sure to contact him or send your queries through to info@modestmuse.co.za. Please join us again next week. We will have some more phenomenal guests in studio with us.